Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the city of Terrace publicly released a new plan of theirs. The Israel-Hamas war is resulting in protests happening in Canada, and Air Canada has gotten fined for not helping one of their passengers.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond it. In their most recent City Council meeting from December 11th, the City of Terrace decided to adopt and release its brand new Climate Action Plan. The plan is said to identify over 30 certain goals and actions that relate into 6 areas that are intended to turn Terrace into a resilient, sustainable, and low-carbon organization. This plan was created via a collaboration between PINA Sustainability Consultants as well as the Pacific Climate Impacts Consortium. This project had initially been approved all the way back in 2020, but it was delayed due to the long-lasting COVID-19 pandemic. Terrace is also said to be working on advancing such climate action by leveraging certain external funding opportunities like the Provincial Local Government Climate Action Program, as Terrace is eligible to get $121,080 in annual funding from that program. To learn more about the plan, visit the City of Terrace's website. In a recent news release, it was revealed that the Bruce Jack gold mine has sadly suffered a fatality recently. Back on December 20th, a member of the Newmont Corporation's workforce that was then working at that mine passed on in a currently undisclosed incident, as said by the company themselves in their statement on the matter. The operations at the Bruce Jack mine are currently suspended, and the senior leaders of Newmont are at the site in person to help out with the investigation into this tragic incident. This is now the 4th fatality to occur at the mine since it opened back in 2017. The mine will stay closed until a full investigation is finally completed and a comprehensive restart plan is developed in order to make future operations safer. British Columbia's health minister says almost all of the international medical graduates registered in the province this year are now working as doctors, with more than half of them in family medicine. Adrian Dix's comments come as staffing shortages across the province have resulted in healthcare woes such as overcrowding and residents without a family doctor in recent years. The registration of 666 international medical graduates this year with the BC College of Physicians and Surgeons was included this month in the first update to the province's $1 billion multi-year health human resource strategy. Dix says the province has made a number of changes this year on the family doctors front, including implementing a new longitudinal payment model that's more popular with new doctors than the traditional fee-for-service model. As the war in Gaza rages on, the impact continues to be felt here at home. In Toronto, police are preparing and warning about an increase in concerning behavior just ahead of another big protest in the city. CTV's Beth McDonald has more.
With recent and concerning demonstrations at malls, and in one case where Toronto police say an officer was pushed off their bicycle, officers want to send a strong message.
Lawful demonstrations do not include protesting inside privately owned spaces, which includes malls, blocking critical infrastructures such as our highways or our hospitals, or causing disturbances at the expense of other residents and visitors to our city. And it certainly does not include the intimidation, the harassment, or hateful behavior.
Police say they're aware of demonstrations in the city planned today and tomorrow, and they expect protesters to respect officers.
The vast majority of the protests have been lawful, and we are seeing sort of an increase by a very small number who are protesting with kind of more antagonistic behavior, certainly challenging our police officers as well.
Police say it's important free speech and charter rights are respected and that demonstrations are peaceful.
Coming up next is a look at some human trafficking investigations. Welcome back. A Metro Vancouver woman accused of running a human trafficking operation is facing more than a dozen charges. Police say the investigation started nearly 10 months ago after a woman ran into a Langley gas station pleading for help. CTV's Isabella Zavarisi has more.
Investigators say it all started at this gas station in Langley on March 7th. A woman, visibly injured and in distress, walked in asking an employee to call police.
That random call from gas station allowed this investigation to come on our radar.
When officers arrived to help the woman, she directed them to a hotel nearby. The investigation eventually leading to an assault charge filed against Jennifer Lynn Stevens.
In this case, in Langley, it is alleged that victims were trafficked for sexual exploitation.
In July, Stevens was scheduled to appear in court, but didn't show up. A Canada-wide warrant was then issued for her arrest. Police say she was found on December 7th in Abbotsford and is now facing 14 new charges, including human trafficking, procuring a person under 18 years old, forcible confinement, advertising sexual services, and assault causing bodily harm.
These investigations are typically complex, most times to do with the hidden nature of the crimes. The victims are vulnerable and often don't come forward to report.
When asked if there were others working with Stevens, RCMP said she's the only person who has been charged.
This is really rare. It's rare to have one individual come forward around this kind of, what it seems, sexual exploitation. And it's also rare that it's a woman.
Earlier this month, the province announced a plan to address gender-based violence, including funding for survivors of human trafficking. Advocates say more needs to be done to prevent these crimes.
It doesn't go far enough. We need to see some very particular actions and investments that will speak to this kind of violence, this kind of support that victims need in the sense of finding safety and prevention.
Stevens remains in custody. None of the charges have been proven in court. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
A Metro Vancouver mayor is calling out the federal government, saying a record-setting immigration boom is fueling BC's housing crisis. CTV's Kevin Chirac has more on the numbers and a response from the provincial housing minister.
The province's population is booming, with a record-setting net migration so far this year of more than 150,000 people, part of a larger national trend with Canada surpassing the 40 million mark, seeing its fastest growth in 66 years.
My message to the federal government is they got to come back to reality.
Port Coquitlam Mayor Brad West calling the federal immigration plan irresponsible when many people are struggling to afford a home.
These numbers are just so beyond reasonable. You cannot build enough to keep up with the number of people who are seeking housing.
One economist says the influx of temporary workers and international students is a main source of soaring housing demand.
The immediate effect is through a large number of non-permanent residents that are coming into the rental market. The rental market has had pretty substantial increases in prices.
In the past year, with the population rising, so has the price of an average place to rent in Vancouver, now more than $3,000 a month. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently spoke on the importance of immigration to help the country's labor shortage.
One of the most important things that we need to understand is that immigration is a source of opportunity, of growth, of economic advantage for Canada.
We asked the BC Housing Minister if he's put any pressure on Ottawa to limit immigration. He didn't acknowledge the question, instead saying he has raised the issue of tying population growth to more federal housing funding, adding, all levels of government need to redouble efforts to deliver even more housing even faster, and the federal government has a critical role to play in helping to ensure everyone across the country has the housing supports they need. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre hasn't released a formal plan, but recently said immigration numbers should be tied with home building numbers.
People know that we need immigration, but it's really a question of what is the appropriate amount.
Kevin Chirac, CTV News, Vancouver.
Air Canada has been handed a nearly $100,000 fine after a BC man who uses a wheelchair was forced to drag himself off of a plane. Rodney Hodgins, a Prince George man, has cerebral palsy and he cannot walk. The 49-year-old flew to Las Vegas in August, but there was no one to get him off of the plane, so he was forced to drag himself from his seat to the front with the help of his wife. The Canadian Transportation Agency says the fine was issued due to several violations of Canada's accessible transportation regulations.
The flight attendant was like, look, we have to turn this plane around. We need you guys to find your way to the front of the plane. And I was like, you know, he can't walk, right? Not a single person took a minute to say, hey, let me grab an arm, or hey, let me help somehow.
Air Canada acknowledged last month that it violated Canadian disability regulations and apologized to Hodgins. Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is likely to see a chance of showers and a low at around only 4 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is said to have to deal with a chance of flurries and its even colder low of only 0 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is forecast to only have some clouds and the low for them at minus 12 degrees. On the north coast, the next week or so for them is projected to see rain, and even more rain, with the high shifting between 10 and 4 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their upcoming week will consist mostly of snow, rain, as well as flurries, with their highs going from 3 to minus 1 degree. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them should have a bit more sun in places, but will still have its share of rain and flurries as well, and the high should bounce from 4 to minus 3 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, fog patches, utility work, and a special event plan. The USC ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 35 and 118 both have some slippery sections. Highway 37 has some slippery sections too, while also having compact snow as well as fog patches. 37A has compact snow, some more compact snow and fog patches on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections with compact ice. Again, please drive according to the conditions and ensure that you have the proper winter tires mounted and torqued on your vehicle as required by the BC Highway Act. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, people can take an up-and-close look at Hallmark houses. Welcome back. The homes in this next story look like something straight out of a Hallmark Christmas movie, and that's because they are. This holiday season, the public can tour the homes all lit up for a good cause. CTV's Michelle Bernoro explains.
Tucked away in a quiet country neighborhood, homes as beautiful on the outside as the inside.
I'm just gobsmacked. Like, look at the tree. I mean, it's just so gorgeous.
And if the homes look familiar, there's good reason.
Hallmark loves our homes. We've had more than 40 Hallmark films in this space, on our property, and around.
This home, with its toy train and engineers in the attic, an intricate Lego display on the upper floor, just one of 8 homes in a neighborhood that set the scene for countless Hallmark movies.
That kettle is almost in every film.
You might recognize this kitchen from A Christmas Treasure.
We have lists in the homes of the movies that they've been in, and we have like a QR code scavenger hunt where people can scan it and then see the house that they're in actually on film.
The owners have opened up their places as part of the Mount Lehman Christmas Home Tour, with 100% of ticket sales going to charity.
We wanted to raise money this year for International Justice Mission because they free children and families from human trafficking.
For some of the homes, decorating began months ago. Family and friends spending thousands of hours to create Christmas magic.
The tour has already attracted thousands of visitors.
We had some people fly out from California and Arizona because they love Hallmark.
Houses are so beautiful on the shows, and I really wanted to experience just being in them.
Organizers say the fact that neighbors would come together for a good cause feels like a Hallmark storyline in itself. The tour is only open until Saturday. Michelle Bernoro, CTV News, Abbotsford.
It's official, Santa Claus now has clearance to visit Canada in a few days.
Santa, we're ready. You can proceed as planned. Safe travels.
That's the federal transport minister giving the man in red a green light. He says he reviewed all of Santa's paperwork and checked it twice. The North Pole's most famous resident, along with his crew of reindeer, are now cleared for travel in Canadian airspace. It's a similar story across all of Canada. If you're dreaming of a white Christmas, you probably aren't going to get it. Canada's chief climatologist says if you don't already have snow, the song is the only white Christmas you're likely to get this year. That's because most of the country has been unusually dry and warm so far in 2023. Environment Canada says it's the result of a strong El Nino pattern after a spring and summer that was already unusually warm. The holiday travel rush is ramping up on both sides of the border, soaring to pre-pandemic levels. In the U.S., it's expected to be the busiest travel season ever. ABC's Gio Benitez has the latest.
The record-breaking holiday travel rush soaring to new heights as the FAA's busiest day in the skies gets underway. Nearly 49,000 planes expected in the air today as passengers make a mad dash home for Christmas.
It's like herding cats.
Airports packed from Chicago to Seattle to Charlotte.
This is ridiculous. Hard to get here.
As far as cancellations and delays, largely smooth sailing, with just a few disruptions. At LaGuardia Airport on Wednesday, the TSA says it removed 17 bullets hidden inside a diaper in one traveler's carry-on bag. While at Reagan National outside Washington, agents stopped a man with this loaded handgun and an unattended bag, leading to brief delays at Charlotte's Douglas International.
I could miss my flight. Everybody here can miss their flights. Outrageous.
Major airlines say most passengers will fly today through Saturday. Delta says it will transport nearly 9 million passengers over the holiday. American expecting more than 12 million. And United Airlines saying this Christmas season will be its busiest on record, transporting around 9 million passengers over the holiday with nearly 4,000 flights each day.
Those planes are going to be full. The airports are going to be full. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. What our focus is making sure that we get those planes out on time and get those planes to their destination on time with their bags.
Now to the new report that Trump personally called 2 Republican members of the Detroit County Election Board and allegedly pressured them to vote against certifying Joe Biden's victory in 2020. ABC's John Carl has the latest.
Overnight, a new report in the Detroit News. The Michigan newspaper reporting that Trump personally called 2 Republican members of Detroit's county election board after he lost the 2020 election and pressured them to vote against certifying Joe Biden's legitimate victory. The paper says it reviewed a recording of the call where Trump, they report, told the 2 board members, quote, "We can't let these people take our country away from us," and where both he and Republican Party Chair Ronna McDaniel promised to get them attorneys if they went along with the demand to refuse to sign the certification. ABC News has not independently confirmed the report, and the Detroit News has not released the audio of the reported call. The Trump campaign doesn't deny the reporting, a spokesperson telling ABC News that Trump's actions, quote, were taken in furtherance of his duty as president to ensure election integrity. Trump is already facing 4 federal charges for what special counsel Jack Smith called a, quote, conspiracy to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election by using knowingly false claims of election fraud. And on Thursday, Trump's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, declared bankruptcy. It's the latest chapter in a dramatic fall for the man once dubbed America's mayor.
This is the greatest mayor our city has ever had. Rudy, come on up here.
Now, under the weight of a mountain of debt, Giuliani is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In addition to millions of dollars in other debts, Giuliani owes 2 Georgia poll workers he falsely accused of ballot fraud $148 million. A judge saying that Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss could start to collect immediately.
I don't regret a damn thing.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 23/10 of a cent. The price of gold is up $21.70. Oil is down 27 cents. Natural gas is down 2 cents. Aluminum is up $3. And in Toronto, the TSX is up 136.08 points. The Venture Index is up 3.90. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 14.58, and the Nasdaq is up 33.66. Police in BC continue to target retail theft this holiday season, with Surrey RCMP announcing multiple arrests during a one-day operation. Police say officers at Guildford Town Centre Mall arrested 15 people this week and recovered about $4,000 worth of stolen goods, including liquor, clothing, and cosmetics. The arrest resulted in 10 charges for theft under $5,000. Police in cities across BC have been conducting operations in retail areas over concerns of rising theft and violence in stores. Still ahead, we look at the rebuilding of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Welcome back. Now to the rebuilding of the Notre Dame Cathedral that was nearly destroyed by a devastating fire in 2019. The hope is to have it reopen around this time next year, but as ABC's James Longman finds out, the reconstruction is already lifting spirits.
When Notre Dame caught fire in 2019, millions watched a piece of history burn. An international treasure nearly destroyed. The challenge to rebuild it huge. I saw the scale of the damage in early 2021, the massive hole in the roof still wide open. But now, just a year till completion, the finish line is in sight.
And you can see the spire.
We climb our way towards the very top of the new spire.
You can see the stonework here. This is all completely new. It was too destroyed to recover, and this woodwork, the beams have all been freshly laid, and you can see that bunch of flowers. That's a gift from the carpenters to say that they're done with this part.
Hundreds of feet up, the scale of this colossal project is clear.
And here we are, right on the top of Notre Dame de Paris. I mean, take a look at this view, it's extraordinary. And the spire is back. I mean, those images, when the spire initially crumbled down into the church when it was on fire, they sent shockwaves all over the world, and it was a trauma for France. It being back now, standing tall over the city, it's a rebirth.
How do you feel when you see it?
I feel very happy, very proud. Proud for all the companions, all the workers which work with enthusiasm.
Philip Jost is head of restoration. Inside, the changes are miraculous. That hole in the roof closed back up entirely. Hundreds of years of dirt cleaned from the walls to brighten every surface. 2,000 specialists have worked on this project. Joiners, carpenters, stonemasons, artists and metalworkers, all working around the clock to make next year's deadline. The stunning rose stained glass window cleaned and back to its former glory.
BC Ferries says it's adding more than 152 sailings between Metro Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland for people traveling over the holidays. The additional sailings begin today and will operate until New Year's Day, with 112 extra sailings added along the Swartz Bay-Tsawwassen route. It's also reminding people to check schedules online while making their travel plans on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, since sailings will be reduced on some routes due to low demand. Vessels have also been decorated with festive displays to get people into the holiday spirit. That's all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.